Okay, hi, it's Dr. Spear. I have made a couple of short little tutorials that I've posted here to the web. Basic stuff on how to use Microsoft Excel. Many of you probably used it before. I'm trying to show you a few tips and tricks that might make using Excel a little bit easier for you. So I've got some screen captures here, so go ahead and take a look, and hopefully these will help you. So I want to show you just a few simple tips, keyboard shortcuts, things that will make working with Excel a little bit easier for you, because we work with Excel a lot in statistics. So of course here you see I've got the upper right, upper left corner of a worksheet in Excel, no big deal. So let's start off. I'm just going to enter some numbers. Always label the columns in the first row, and let's say I just put a number there. Alright, now if I wanted to copy this number down or to the right, I could do it in a number of different ways, but the easiest way is you see this little black square in the lower right corner of the cell. I can grab that and I can drag it down, and it copies that value all the way down. Another keyboard shortcut that might be very useful, that I use all the time. Let's say I wanted to undo what I just did. A lot of times you copy something, you make a mistake, or you copy something, you want to do it over. You can come up. Now I have the undo button up here at the top of my worksheet, and I can undo several steps there. But if you just want to undo your last step, Control Z undoes it. Undoes it? Not sure if that's a word, but I just used the undo to erase a mistake that I just made. And of course now I can grab this box and I can copy to the right as well. Control Z to undo. Okay, so that's if I've got a single value that I want to copy. Now another thing you can do with that square is, let's say I've got a pattern. So here I've got 1, 2, which is a pattern, and I can grab this box and it will actually maintain the pattern for me, which is kind of nice. And so if you've got some sort of pattern you want to establish, and this works with several different types of patterns. Now there is one caveat with using the pattern like this, and that has to do with dates. So I put in a date, and let's just enter a date, 1/20/12. Alright, now I've got a single date. Right now I have no pattern, correct? So if I grab this, you might expect that it will do like we did earlier, where it will just copy this date all the way down. But for dates, even if you have just a single value with no pattern, it actually tries to impose a pattern. And you see that it increased the dates by 1 day. So that's how you can get surprised sometimes, because for some reason it always does dates in this manner. So that's something to watch out for. Okay, next thing I want to show you, let's say that I noticed that I made this mistake and I want to copy this date down to these cells. So of course the easiest way to do it is to come up and use the copy button, and then use the paste button. Copy button, select where you want to paste it, paste button. Everyone knows how to do that. Control Z to undo it. But anytime you have to move your mouse up here, move your mouse around to select something, that tends to slow you down. That's why the keyboard shortcuts are so useful. So let's escape, so we're no longer have that selected. Now let's select that cell. I'm going to go Control C to copy, and then I can highlight and go Control V to paste. And you're probably familiar with those keyboard shortcuts. They work in Excel, they work in Word, they work just anywhere actually. So that makes things a little bit quicker, but I still had to select my whole range. Well, let me show you something else. Let's say I've got this cell copied. Now I can do something like Control Shift down arrow, and you'll notice that it selected all the cells below the active cell that have some data in them. And so now I can go Control V, and I've pasted those data in all those cells. Pretty nice. And so that saves me from having to use the mouse to select ranges. And that works in a number of different ways. Let's say I'm up here and I want to select all the cells that are contiguous, that have some data in them. I can go Control Shift right, and I'm still holding down Control Shift, and now I'm hitting the down arrow, and I select all those data. And let's show how that works. So here's Control C, move over one, Control V. Here's another tip I can show you right now. You'll notice when I paste it into this column that the numbers don't show up. That's because the column isn't wide enough to hold these data. So I can go to where my cursor changes between two columns, double click, and now the column will automatically fit the data that I have in them. And so again, just to demonstrate, I can go, I'm up here in A1, Control Shift, holding them both down, right arrow, and I select all the way to the right. And if I came down here, Control Shift right, it would do the same thing. If I go Control Shift right and then continue to hold down Control Shift and down arrow, you see how I select all those data. And this works just for moving around the worksheet too. So let's say I wanted to go to the far right, I can go just Control right, not holding Shift, and I jumped to the right. Control down, and I jump to the bottom. Control left, I jump to the left. Control up, I jump up. So instead of selecting cells, that allows me to just move around. And you'll notice the rule here is that it will move either right, left, down, up, depending on your arrow, until it hits an empty cell. Well, this can be nice if you're looking for somewhere where you've got missing data, for example. So let's pretend I've got a huge worksheet and I want to make sure that I don't have any missing cells. I can just come up here and go Control down, and you'll note that I stop where there's a missing cell. And so then I could fill in the missing value. Now, for a cell this small, you don't really need those control shortcuts, but often you're going to be working with many more rows of data. So here I've copied down, I'm down to row 629, and I'm doing some work. And I want to jump all the way back up. Well, I could use my scroll bar, which would take forever. I could move the cursor all the way over and grab the little slider bar. That would also work. But those things take a long time. Of course, I could just up arrow 628 times. But if I go Control up, then I jump to the top. Control down, I jump back down to the bottom. And if I hold Control down again, I jump to the extreme bottom of this worksheet. You'll notice that the absolute last row in this worksheet is row 65,536. That's because this is an older version of Excel, which that's the limit on the number of rows. Sometimes you might need more rows than that, especially if you have something like a data logger that logs data every minute or so. In that case, you'll need the newest version, I want to say Office version 10, that has over 1 million rows of data. So if you're running out of rows, you're going to have to get the newest version of Excel. Now, I could go Control up and I jump back up to the last cell that has data in it. Or if I want to jump all the way up to cell A1, another trick is Control Home. And no matter where you're at, that'll always take you back to cell A1. So that's all I can think of right now. Just a few keyboard shortcuts, but hopefully that'll help your work with Excel to go a little bit smoother.